Well, welcome to an edition of GW Unspoken, where we discuss stuff we don't typically talk about, but probably should. And we're coming here in Season 9, Episode 3. And we're talking about gratefulness. And we've got a bit of a controversial episode this time, so we're going to unpack some things that's going to ruffle a few feathers out there. Because you know what? No matter who you are not naturally grateful. No one is. Not me, not you, not your kid who just got a whole happy meal and still wants yours. Gratitude is not a personality trait. It's not just something you're born with, like freckles, height, or a love of carbs. It's a muscle, and if you don't train it, it withers. Let's start with this myth. Some people are just naturally gifted. You've heard it. She's just one of those glass half full types, or he's always so positive, or boy, they just get really grounded and grateful all the time. It's a gift. As if gratefulness is something you're either born with or not, like tone deafness or a double jointed elbow. But here's the problem with that thinking. If you believe gratefulness is a trait and not a trained response, then when life gets hard, you give yourself a pass. You say, well, I'm just not that kind of person. And you know what happens with your brain? It listens to that and it builds neural pathways and makes you believe that concept. Now, according to a study in personality and individual differences, this is word for word, gratefulness has less to do with personality type and more to do with intentional behavior. So in other words, it's not a who you are thing, it's a what you do thing. And here's the kicker. People who train themselves to express gratitude, especially during hard times, were significantly more resilient and reported better physical health, even under chronic stress. And I know plenty of us out there are feeling chronic stress. Students as well, young kids, parents, grandparents, we're all feeling it. People who are lonely. So that's the kicker. They train themselves to express gratitude. They have all those significant, more resilient and better physical health. So let's seek out some brain science because I like being a bit of a geek around this. So the brain loves patterns, and that's why if you're a great educator or a really good parent, you have things that are really inconsistent in those practices. But the more you think a certain way, the stronger those neural pathways become, and that's called neuroplasticity. It builds those neurons and it makes those connections stronger. So if you're someone who constantly complains, your brain becomes really, really good at spotting what's wrong. You could be sipping on a margarita on a beach and then your brain will say, this ice is melting unevenly. You know what I'm saying? It's basically, it looks for the negative in everything. However, if you actually train your brain to practice gratitude daily, you're rewiring those neural pathways. So it's plastic, you're rewiring it to seek out what's good. And not just like in an airy-fairy way. Literally, it rewires the connections between your prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking part of your brain, and your amygdala, which is that emotional part of your brain, and that reduces emotional reactivity. Here's another stat, again, word for word. Harvard Medical School study. Participants who wrote down 3 specific things they were grateful for every day for 21 days, they say it takes 21 days to make a habit, showed measurable increases in dopamine production and emotional regulation. Feel-good hormone, the feeling of wanting to get up and do stuff, and your calming emotion. So guess what? Gratefulness is not fluff. It's actual mental fitness. But this is where it does get controversial. Gratitude can actually become toxic when it's used in a way to shame others. And you probably know what I mean out there. You've heard these comments before, such as, well, at least you don't have cancer. Or you should be grateful to even have a job. Oh, that's first world problems. So let me just say this clearly. You can be grateful and struggling. You can feel blessed and burnt out. And you can still appreciate your house and still want to run away from the people who live inside it. Love your family, by the way. Gratitude isn't a moral high ground. It's a practice. And just like exercise, some days you show up and don't feel like doing it, but you do it anyway because over time it works. And here's another news flash. People express gratefulness out loud with humility, not superiority, are far more likely to be trusted and respected. And no one wants to be around a gratitude great creeper. So how do we train gratitude when life feels like a flaming bin chicken? Like, how can we do that? Because a lot of people go, well, it is fluff, or it doesn't actually work. We just learned then that neural pathways, they've proved it at Harvard, that it actually does change your emotional center. Number 1, don't fake it. Just frame it. Instead of, I should be grateful for, say, what in this mess can I still be thankful for? Therefore, you're not denying the chaos. You're reframing your perspective. Here's another one. Again, for making it real. Have some micro moments count. So gratitude doesn't have to be deep. It can be I'm grateful for my Zoom call that didn't drop out, or I'm grateful that my pants are still buttoned up today because I'm putting on weight, or I'm grateful my child hasn't asked for dinner again. Hey, what's for dinner? Well, not yet anyway. So make those little moments count and attach it to something you already do. So sometimes gratitude needs a cue as a reminder. So do it while you're brushing your teeth or walking the dogs or while the kettle boils. Make it a habit loop. Then you're more likely to do it over and over again. And, if you mess up one day, it doesn't matter. You don't shame spiral it. Just come back the next day. I mean, you wouldn't skip out one workout and say, well, that's it. I'm unfit forever. Okay, maybe that was a bad example, but you know what I mean. Don't beat yourself up because suddenly you miss out on a gratefulness session. So look, here's a challenge for you. Again, it's a controversial episode. It's going to be people out there who go, well, I do believe people are naturally gifted to be grateful, or they are more thankful for things, or they look at perspectives differently. Remember, in all things, if we want to change, our brain is plastic. We can make change. We can make it a habit loop over and over again, and you can actually change your perspective on things. So here's our 3 journal prompts for the week. Love you to write them down again because it's when the actual momentum happens and movement happens and actually things actually change. Number 1, what is one moment from the last 2 days, so the last 48 hours, that made you feel like you had a big smile or it made you breathe easier? But even if it was small, especially if it was small, what's one moment that made you smile and breathe easier? Number 2, where do you notice yourself struggling to feel grateful? Like, how could you train your brain to respond differently? And be honest, not perfect, just when could you do it? And number 3, what's one way you could show gratitude in action this week? Verbally, physically, or even silently. Maybe it's a message, a moment of patience, or just saying thank you and really, really meaning it. Because that could be the reminder that gratitude isn't reserved just for monks or mindset coaches with perfect lighting. It's actually for all of us. It's all of us in traffic where I actually hate it and get frustrated. It's in chaos. It's in the middle of eating last night's leftovers. It's feeding the dogs, like we said. It's going for a walk. You're not failing at gratefulness. You're just human. So go and flex that gratitude muscle like your arm day for your soul. Just do it. Okay? If this episode made you laugh, cry, or reflect, send it to someone who needs to be reminded, you can have and build a grateful life, even with messy tools. And, keep it real. Keep it raw. Keep it ridiculously human, because we all need it, especially in this day and age. You see a lot of people, especially I find middle-aged people who are actually struggling out there. They really don't know what's happening with their life. Let's change that around. Let's be mindful. Let's be grateful. And when we're grateful, we change those neural pathways and have a different perspective on what we're seeing and how we're feeling. I'm Gary, and thanks a lot for joining in to GW Unspoken episode 3.